doll artist, Kim here from CustomDollBaby.com. Today I would like to show you how to create my Peachy Keen complexion mixture. Peachy Keen is a wonderful alternative to Flesh 08 for your Caucasian babies because it adds some gorgeous rosy and golden undertones to the dolls that you wouldn't necessarily get from just a Flesh 08 layer. So very excited to show you how I make that. I ran out, so I need to make some more. So we'll go ahead and mix it all together. As I was saying, I just ran out of my Peachy Keen mixture and it's time to make some more. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity to do a demo. The Peachy Keen, to create Peachy Keen, you will need some Flesh 08, which is a very nice complexion base color, raw sienna, which gives us our golden undertones, and Genesis red, which gives us our rosy undertones. So you gotta love any recipe that only has 3 ingredients. We're also going to need some odorless paint thinner. This is Bob Ross mixed into a squirt bottle. And something that you can use to mix. This is a silicone sculpting tool. You can use a palette knife, possibly a paintbrush, toothpick, whatever. Okay. So the first thing I'm gonna do, oh, and you're gonna need a jar. You could either use an old Genesis jar, or if you don't want to make a ton of it and you just want to make a few applications worth, you can use a regular jar, like a food jar, and just create your milky mixture in this jar and use that to paint your dolls. So you have options. I'm gonna be using this across a lot of orders, so I like to mix it concentrated in the Genesis jar to begin with, and then move it to the larger jar as I'm doing orders. The first thing we're gonna do is grab a good sized glob of Flesh 08. You may need to mix it in your jar before you bring it over. These things tend to separate a little bit. My Flesh 08 is nice and creamy, but if you've had yours for a while, it may be more stiff. So you may find yourself scraping it out instead of scooping it out. But the Flesh 08 is the base, so the majority of this mixture is going to be Flesh 08. So I'm going to almost fill my jar with it. Don't use up all of your Flesh 08. You want to keep some of it in its natural state for your nail tips. It looks really, really good on fingernails. So don't use it all up. Save some for your nails. Okay, so I filled up my jar with Flesh 08, and I'm gonna go ahead and mix it with what little bit of Peachy Keen was already in there. This also helps me to smooth it out. Sometimes there's little lumps in it. The nice thing about the silicone tool is that it makes it easy to scrape the sides of the jar, so you can get a nice even mixture. All right, the next step is to add our Genesis red. Genesis red is highly pigmented, so you don't want to put too much. So this is the opposite of what we were doing with the Flesh 08. We're not going to scrape huge globs in there, but I am going to work off decently large amounts of it and work it in. The Genesis red is not as soft as the Flesh 08, so I really have to force it into the mixture. And as you can see, possibly, it's already starting to add a tint. And I didn't get very much. So a little bit of Genesis red goes a long way. In fact, I think I may have gotten too much. But we'll see. Again, be sure to scrape the sides and the bottom of the jar. That's where your paint's going to have a tendency to stick. I should also mention that's very time consuming to make a jar of paint because you want it to be very, very well mixed, and that takes a lot of stirring, so be prepared. Spend a lot of time whipping up your mixture. So here's our Peachy Keen with just the Genesis Red. The final ingredient we're going to add is raw sienna, as this adds our golden undertones. So I'm just going to wipe off my tool here. It looks so much like makeup foundation, doesn't it? And I'm going to scrape off some of the raw sienna, roughly the same amount of that I had for the Genesis Red. So we'll start there and see if we need to add some more. As I was saying, if your flesh weight is kind of stiff, you would need the odorless paint thinner to loosen it up to a consistency that you can mix. Mine was already nice and creamy. It was a fresh batch that I bought recently. So I actually didn't need any paint thinner to make this stuff movable. But you can definitely expect to use paint thinner to loosen it if you need to. So this is already a really pretty color, especially when you compare it to where we started. You can see that it's so much more rosy. I do want it a little bit more peachy, so I'm gonna get just a tiny bit more raw sienna, but here's the thing. When you're mixing paint, it's really up to you. So if you have a baby that's sort of a Mediterranean complexion, maybe you add a lot more raw sienna. If you have a baby that you want to be relatively fair, you just use the straight flesh 08. So you really go by your preference. So if you want to stop here, that's great. I'm going to add a little bit more because I do love those gold tones. But you don't have to. See a little bit more raw sienna there. The raw sienna is pretty thick, so I have to work it in. Basically smash it against the sides of the jar and then whip the mixture around until it's incorporated. See what a pretty color that is? And that is how I make my Peachy Keen mixture. This demo has been brought to you by CustomDollBaby.com. For more information on complexions and the entire reborning process, please subscribe to Custom Doll Baby on YouTube.